Rev up your engines! Today I'm going to talk about BMW versus Mercedes. Now in 2018, Mercedes-Benz was rated number 14 in terms of reliability. They were rated more unreliable than Volkswagen and Tesla, but they were rated more reliable than BMW. Now these ratings always change over time, that's 2018. But still, it's only 14th, so it's not that great to begin with. And to understand the history of BMW and Mercedes, at least here in the United States, you go back decades, BMW was a sporty car. They only sold little bitty four-cylinder ones. They were kind of a niche car. People used them for rally cars and stuff, where at the same period in time, Mercedes in the United States, it was more interested in selling luxurious comfort cars to people. The cars that I worked on back then were generally owned by doctors or lawyers. They paid a ton of money relative to what other cars cost, and they were pretty solid built cars, comfortable. They had much better suspension than the junk that the American cars had on in those days. You certainly paid for the quality, but the quality was there. Things have changed quite a bit. Take BMW. They still tout themselves as the ultimate driving machine. They're not just little bitty four-cylinder engines. BMW makes the 12-cylinder engine that is used in Rolls-Royce, of course. BMW owns Rolls-Royce now. They've had their BMW engines in Rolls-Royces for a long time. And BMW is making their cars ride better with fancy computer-controlled shock system, much improved handling over the old ones. Become a more luxurious car company. And Mercedes, they've got more into speed, especially those AMG Mercedes. They had a lot more speed than they used to have. They're still comfortable and all, but of course if you get a really souped up AMG one, it's not going to be as comfortable as the S series. It's all luxurious because they're going a little bit more for speed than comfort. But in making such changes, both BMW and Mercedes over the years have become higher and higher tech cars that cost more and more money to repair when they break. The Germans always had a prerogative towards going for unique software, so it's very hard to analyze the vehicles unless you work on them all the time and have their very expensive $20,000 scan tools on them. That's just how the Germans have always been. The cars never were cheap to work on, but now they're super expensive to work on because of their technology. And especially in the case of BMW, they have made a combination of electronics and the overuse of plastic parts to create problems that are even worse than the Mercedes repairs are. Cheap plastic parts are the bane of any BMW owner's car over time if they keep them, because they just start cracking, they're brittle, and they cost a fortune to replace. Last year I was working on BMW, and the plastic cooling hose under the intake was all brittle, cracked, and leaking. Well, the old BMWs, guess what? They had steel hoses there. They lasted forever. Well, they went to plastic because it's cheaper to make them, of course. And not only was that stupid little piece of plastic $175, you had to take the intake manifold off to replace it. So it ended up costing a whole bunch of money for something that shouldn't have broken in the first place. Here's a story that'll show you the real problem with BMW. One of my friends who's also a mechanic and he specializes in European cars, he said, "Hey Scotty, look at that BMW out there. I just got a great deal on that used BMW from one of my customers." And I thought, maybe working on those things all the time has affected his mind. So about a year later, I saw him in another auto parts store and I said, "Hey Joe, how's that BMW working out for you?" And he said, "That plastic piece of crap. I got rid of it a month ago. It was costing me a fortune. All the plastic kept breaking on it." BMW seem to have more quality problems in their later model cars than Mercedes-Benz does. Not that Mercedes don't have problems, but they don't have them to the degree that BMW has. Now when it comes to safety, in the modern BMWs and Mercedes, they're very safe cars. Mercedes and BMWs were always into safety. Last year, Mercedes had one perfect 10 out of 10 for safety, and BMW had two perfect 10 for 10s for safety. So they're both very safe cars as long as all that electronic stuff works correctly. BMW's got a little edge on that. Now both BMW and Mercedes are expensive cars, there's no doubt in that. Hey, a new 330, those things can easily top $52,000. And that's a 4-cylinder BMW. And if you compare various Mercedes with various BMWs, you'll find that sometimes the BMW costs more, sometimes the Mercedes costs more, and of course Mercedes-Benz is now pushing their C-Class that costs a little bit less, and they're even going with their new A-Class. The new A-Class Mercedes starts at $32,500. Prices vary back and forth, but if you're planning on buying one or the other, here's my real advice. I wouldn't buy either. I would lease. And I go to our neighbors to the north, Canada, for this one. In Canada, with BMWs, most people lease them. They do not buy them. 80-something% of the people lease them in Canada. And I tend to agree with them. Yes, normally I say leasing a car is a waste of money. But if you buy either a new BMW or a new Mercedes, they lose their value so fast that you will actually lose less money if you lease one for a couple of years than if you buy one and then sell it after a couple of years. Mercedes and BMW have been pushing leases like mad and advertising for that reason. After on lease, they send them someplace. Sometimes they send them to other countries and sell them there. But if you're wise, you wouldn't buy either of those cars, you would lease it. So if you wanted a car that's the driving machine, maybe you'd get a BMW. Or if you wanted more luxury, you buy a Mercedes. But you don't want to be in it long term because the values drop so much, you lose so much money. And sure, the leases, you're paying a reasonable amount of money for those cars, but you know exactly how much money you're spending. And believe me, if you bought one and then sold it when the lease was up, you would lose so much more money. As an example, I had a customer that had an S-Series Mercedes, a nice luxurious car, there's no arguing that. Sticker price was $126,000. When it was 8 years old, that car went for $8,000 cash. Now both cars, BMW and Mercedes, are fun to drive. I love driving them once I'm done working on the customer's car. And with my own customers, truthfully, a lot of them do lease the cars. They're doctors, lawyers, and they have a deal where it's leased through the business, so it's a business expense. And it's not even put on their taxes that they have to pay their after-tax money to buy the car. The business is leasing the car. That's why you want to lease one that's got a full warranty on it. Then you don't have to think about anything. And if the car's a lemon, what the heck? You don't own it. But whatever you do, don't do what I've seen a lot of people do in the last 50 years. Do not buy a high mileage used BMW or Mercedes thinking I got a great deal, because odds are it will bite you in the rear end if you keep it any length of time. So now you know what I think about BMWs and Mercedes, and if you're really a fan, what you should do if you want to get your hands on one of them. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.